Hi, I'm Wanda from Orlando Craft, and today I'm going to show you how to make these cushion covers. Now this is a 16-inch cushion cover, and if you like a nice puffy looking pillow cushion, you can use a 16-inch insert, and that makes it nice and full. Or if you prefer a flatter look, you can use a 14 or 15-inch insert, and it looks just as good. So let's get on and show you how to make these. So what you're going to need for this project is a 10-inch feature square. Now you can use a layer cake if you've got one left over, a layer cake square, or you can cut some from your own fabric. So try and get something that has got a bit of a feature. Now, so that's a 10-inch square. Then you'll need two pieces that measure 13 by 16.5, and these are going to be for the back of your cushion cover. You'll need two pieces at 10 inches by 1 3/4. These are going to be our sashing strips. And you also need two pieces at 12.5 by 1 3/4. Now for our border, we've got two pieces at 12.5 by 2.5 and two pieces at 16.5 by 2.5. Now don't worry if you didn't get all those measurements, because they will be on the website at orlandocraft.com. So we're going to make the front of our cushion first, so I'll just take away these backing pieces because we don't need them for now. So the first thing we're going to do is take one of the 10-inch strips and lay it along one edge of our feature piece, and we're going to do the same with the other one. So they'll be on opposing sides. And I'm just going to sew along here with a 1/4-inch seam on both ends. So as you can see, I've got those two pieces attached, and I'll just show you how I've pressed them. So I've pressed the seams towards the outside edge. Okay, so now we're going to put the next piece on. Now we've cut these to size, so they should just fit exactly, and that does. However, if you find that your material sort of comes over a little bit at the edge, don't slice it off. What you want to do is line it up and put a pin in there, and put a pin in the other end, and then just stretch it a little bit and pin in the centre. If your materials are way piece over, so you've got quite a lot overhang, then you have an issue with your seams and you need to address that. But these are cut to size, and we don't want any distortion in our cushion. We want this all to sit nicely and look nice. So pin at each end and then just a little stretch and in the centre, and you're going to ease it in when you're sewing. So I'm going to pin that and sew it, 1/4-inch seam, and I'll do the same with the other side. Okay, so I've added those two pieces of sashing to my piece, and as you can see, it's starting to look really lovely. Now, I've pressed again the seams to the outside edge, and just a little tip when you're sewing, what happens is these seams have a tendency to want to go back down, and you'll feel it, it'll feel all lumpy as you're going through the machine. So just before you get to that point, just lift your material and push that seam up towards the outer edge so that it's flat, because we don't want any bulk around there. Okay, so now we're going to add our borders. So I'll just take my short pieces first and lay them again, just doing exactly the same as we did before. One at each end, pin, make sure it's all nice and flat, and we're going to sew with a 1/4-inch seam along each edge. So we have our first border strips on, and again I've pressed them towards the outer edge. So now it's time to add our outer strips. So here we go, same again, lay them down, making sure that the ends meet, and we'll just pin that along there and sew it with a 1/4-inch seam, and exactly the same on the other side. So there we are, we have our front piece finished. So I'm just going to put that aside for the moment, and we're going to work with our back pieces. So I'll just bring those in. Now what I'm going to do is on the long side, so make sure you've got the long piece of your fabric, not the narrow piece. I'm going to draw a line a 1/4-inch from the edge. Okay, so just along here, like that. And then I'm going to bring the ruler in an inch from that line. So just place your inch marking along that line that you've just drawn, and I'm going to draw another line. I'm using a friction pen, by the way, don't use a ballpoint. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll take that to the iron, and we'll iron over on the 1/4-inch, and then we'll iron on the inch. Now this is just going to give us a nice neat finish to our backing, and I'm going to top stitch those, but first things first, we'll just go and iron those down and show you what it looks like. Okay, so as you can see, I have pressed the 1/4 inch line and I've also pressed at the 1 inch line, and that sits nice and flat. Now I've done that to both sides, so they're both finished nicely, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to top stitch along the inch line, and I'm also going to top stitch along the edge. So I'm going to do that now. So as you can see now, I've top stitched along the outer edge and also in at the 1 inch line. So now we're just going to assemble the cushion cover. So you can have this running any way you like. I'm going to put my top piece facing that way, but if you wanted to, you can do it from the side. It doesn't really matter, it's entirely up to you. Okay, so I'm going to lay that piece down over the top, and then I'm going to take the other piece and lay it from the bottom. And what I'll do is I'll go around and I'll pin all that, and making sure that these all sit nice and flat and get pinned in and there's no bubbles or buckles. And then I'm just going to sew all the way around, and I'll come off at the edge and start again because I'll have to clip those corners before we turn it through. So I'm going to sew all the way down with a 1/4 inch seam all the way right round the cushion. So we're just about finished now. So I've sewn all the way around the edge, and I'm going to turn this through now just to make sure everything's caught up before I clip my corners. Push out in the corners at this stage. Okay, everything's caught nicely. Right, so there's our back. Oh, doesn't that look lovely? So yes, everything's fine. So what I'll do now is I'll just reach in, bring my corners out, and I'll just give it a clip. Now make sure you don't clip your stitching when you're doing this. So you just clip across the corner and take a little bit of the bulk from either side. I'll do that for all 4 corners, and I'll push them through nicely. So there we are, there's our finished cushion cover, and I have a 16-inch insert in there, so it's all nice and full. Now you don't have to just make this style. What you can do is you can take this design and you can change it up to suit yourself. Now in this one here you can see that I framed the dragonfly, and I've made the borders and the sashing wider just so that I can pick out the dragonfly. So you can do all sorts with this pattern once you get going. Sky's the limit. Now if you've enjoyed this tutorial, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, you can get the written instructions over on alandacraft.com. And don't forget to share us on Facebook and Pinterest.